Hello dear knitters, welcome back to Knitting for Everyone channel, and here we are to knit a cute sweater for kids from 6 months to 4 years old. The basic principles are the same as for Lopapeysa adult size. I put a link below if you're curious to watch it. As a yarn, I would recommend the next ones, but of course feel free to use another yarn if it has approximately the same characteristics. Here I choose a yarn that I would use for this sweater. First, Drops Cotton Merino, which is 50% wool, 50% cotton. On the website you can read more detailed information about the yarn. You can find the link below in the description. Second, Drops Merino Extra Fine 100% wool, and third, Drops Puna 100% alpaca. All of them are very gentle and suit well for kids' garment. As I said, you can choose something very similar, just make sure that the gauge is the same or very close to it. To be sure that you need the right size, you have to check the gauge. Normally in the description of the yarn you can find the gauge that you can use as a reference. For Bjørndalen sweater, I need a gauge where 10 cm of width are equal 21 stitches. Let us check the yarn description. For example, here you see that 10 cm is equal to 21 stitches. Another yarn I choose have absolutely the same gauge, so both of them are options for my sweater. However, if you use this yarn for the first time, I would recommend you to make your sample, rinse it, dry off, and measure the gauge, as you might need tighter or looser. In this case, you can change the needle size to get the right gauge. As tools, you need the next set. Circle needles 3.5 and 4 mm, about 40 cm long, and double pointed needles 3.5 and 4 mm. As an option, you can try to knit using the magic loop method, but personally I prefer double pointed needles. Besides, you need a plastic needle or crochet to seal the armpits and bind off the neck. In this tutorial I will show you how to knit the sweater for 1-year-old kid. In the description you can find a link where you can see how the pattern looks like for this age. If you want to get the full pattern for this sweater, including charts and all sizes, you can find it in my shop on Etsy at a moderate price, which is actually more as a support for my YouTube channel. We start our work with casting on stitches for the sleeve. I prefer to blow cast on, which gives a better looking edge. First of all, I take an extra thread and small needles of 3.5 mm and cast on half of the stitches, then it's set in the pattern, plus 1 stitch to join the round. Then I connect both sides, simply pulling one stitch over another. Next 3 rows I'm going to have purl stitches. Then finally I come to the row where I get all stitches I need to start the rib. Here you can see that in the very first row I have loops in between extra thread. I do a purl stitch from my current row, then I pick up the loop from the very first row and make a knit stitch. Then again, purl stitch and knit stitch from the loop of the first row. This way I double the number of stitches and get the final number that I actually need. Using this method you will get an elastic enough edge and it won't get too loose after a while. Looks also nice. Then I do 1 purl 1 knit stitch rib, which is, according to my pattern, it's about 2.5 centimeters in height. When I finish with the rib, I increase the number of stitches. In my case, I need to get 6 more stitches evenly distributed. To do an increase, I just pick up the loop from the stretch in between stitches and knit it twisted. If you prefer another method, just use it. More important that you don't get holes there. Right after that, I start colorwork. Two colors knitting is relatively simple, but still good to know some tricks. I prefer to use for each color another finger to separate the threads. This way they are not getting entangled and easy to hold them in their place. Thus I pick up one, then another according to my pattern. I put this chart into the description so you can try how it will work for you. When you do color work using double-pointed needles, it's important to keep an eye on the tension of your knitting, so stretches are not too tight and not too loose. I think it can be challenging if you haven't done it before, but what was the trick with fingers that you keep both threads in your palm and can control the tension. Next step, I see in the instructions that I need to increase stitches while I'm knitting the sleeve. It says I need to increase 2 stitches every 6th row 5 times, and the 6th time I have to increase just 1. Therefore, the final number will be 47 stitches. All increases will be along the sleeve at the beginning and at the end of the row. I do first knit stitch, then do 1 increase from the stretch. I knit until the end of the row and do another increase, just 1 stitch before the end, the same way. Then I knit 6 rows and do another increase. I keep doing it until I get all increases. After all increases, I recount the number of stitches to be sure the number is correct, so I have 47 stitches altogether. In my pattern it says that I need to knit 17 cm height sleeve before I start working on the second chart. I measured the sleeve and surprisingly I have just 1 cm left before making another pattern of the sleeve. So I reached 17 cm and will work on the next sleeve pattern. Not necessary that the pattern will fit exactly the number of stitches, but it won't be visible anyway as it finishes in the armpit. When the pattern is ready, I need to move 8 stitches of the armhole on the separate thread. So I take a contrast thread and move the middle 4 stitches from both sides of the sleeve. All the rest stitches I will also move to separate thread as I need my needles to make another sleeve. When the sleeve is ready, I start working on another sleeve the same way. In the pattern, I find the number of stitches I need to cast on. I'm going to use the same tubular method as for sleeves. Do the rib, need the bottom chart and need the height of the body, and need the top chart according to the pattern in the description. There's nothing new from the sleeve, so you can do it independently. When I have the whole body, I need to prepare it to join with the sleeves. As in the case with the sleeves, I need to move 8 stitches from each side on the separate thread. In my pattern it says that I pick up 8 stitches. I do it from the beginning of the row. Then I count 55 stitches and move another 8 stitches on a separate thread. Now everything is ready to join the body with both sleeves. Now I need to connect all parts I have. I start with the first sleeve. I do need the first stitch and then pull it through the last stitch of the body. This way I want to avoid leaving 2 big holes in the armpits. In order to keep the same amount of stitches, I leave the stitch from the loop below. Therefore, I don't miss any stitches. Then I need all stitches of the sleeve. Here I come to another joint and do the same way. I do need both connecting stitches, pull one over another and lift one stitch from the loop to keep the number of stitches. Now I need all stitches of the front side of the body until I come to the place where I need to attach another sleeve. I join the sleeve absolutely the same way as the first one. When I finish the row, I have to recount the number of stitches. In my case, it has to be 188 stitches. If the number is correct, I start working the yoke chart. There are some places in the chart where I have to decrease stitches evenly. For example, it says that I need to decrease 12 stitches and get 168 by the end of the row. As I have 180 now, I simply divide this number into 12 and get 15.6 stitches. It means that I decrease every 5th stitch. It means 14s and 50s go together. Or if I have to decrease 56 stitches to get 112 stitches, I divide 168 into 56 and get 3. It means you need 1 stitch and 2nd and 3rd go together. For the neck, I go down a needle size and take 3.5 mm and do a simple rib, 1 knit, 1 purl stitch. After 1.5-3 cm as you wish, you can just bind it off loosely. If you prefer tubular bind off, then keep watching and I show you how to do it using a plastic needle. I do approximately 5 rows of ribbing first because I want to have my neck edge very low. Now I need to prepare the rib to bind off. For this I need to make 3 rows a bit different from the simple rib. Row 1. I do all stitches as they are, but purl stitches I simply move to the right needle, keeping the thread in front of it. We keep doing it the whole row. 1 knit stitch, purl stitch I move to the right needle. Row 2. Now I change the way and move knit stitches to the right needle, keeping the thread beside, and do purl stitches. You can knit it anyway using back or front loop, the more important that you don't twist stitches. Row 3, it's the same as the row 1. We do knit stitch and purl stitch move to the right needle. Remember to keep the thread in front. Last but not least, I need to start binding off from the purl stitch, therefore just do the first knit stitch. Now our rib is prepared to bind it off. I take a plastic needle and leave the thread about 3-4 lengths of the neck length. Here you need to remember 3 steps to succeed in making bind off the right way. Step 1. I insert the needle into the purl stitch. I use for it a back loop, but if you have a front loop instead, you're going to use the front loop. Step 2. I move my needle through the half of the previous knit stitch and the second stitch on the needle, right to left. Step 3. The final step to remember is to insert the needle to the same purl stitch, but this time back to front. When I've done it, I release both stitches. You already can see how neat the edge is. Repeat the steps. Step 1. Insert the needle into the purl stitch. Step 2. Insert the needle through the knit stitch, the left side of the previous one, and the second stitch on the needle. Step 3. Insert the needle back to the front of the purl stitch. I keep doing it the whole row. If for you this bind off seems to be too tight, even if it's elastic, you can not go down the needle size and keep 4 mm instead, or try to bind off more relaxed way. For sealing armholes, I also need a plastic needle. I'll also use a crochet to help myself with stitches. Don't worry to release the extra thread we used to hold our stitches. Anyway, you might lose some, but it's easy to fix it. I need to find the first loop. It's easy to lose it as stitches here were too tight. However, I can use crochet to lift it up. Here I need to remember 2 movements. One movement is to go down through the loop. Another movement is to go up through another loop. The same on the opposite side of the hole. One down, one up. Then I return back to the upper side, do one movement down to the loop that is already caught, and move up through the next loop. As a result, you get both sides connected the same way as the knitting itself is. You can always use crochet to leave stitches, don't be afraid to miss them. I leave the very corner of this hole and will return to it later. To seal the corners, I need to pull the big stitches and spread the lengths throughout other stitches it's connected to, like this. Of course, you can tighten them up even more, but I'm already satisfied with the result. All the ends I entangle with the loops on the wrong side. After rinsing, they will be felted in and not bothering anymore. You can see that I have a bit squeezed part in the pattern here, but it's easy to fix them after rinsing. By the way, if you need tight and have problems with the pattern that it's getting squeezed a bit, then rinsing and ironing will solve your problems. You put the sweater into lukewarm water, rinse it a bit, and then put it on a flat surface to dry off. And this is exactly the time to stretch all parts of the sweater and put it the way you want to have it as a final result. Ironing will flatten uneven stitches. I hope you enjoyed the video and find it useful for your own knitting projects. I'm happy to share with you my experience, so don't hesitate to ask questions and write comments. See you next video.